Float Targar friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for another Orc Mode workout, and today was Max Effort Bench Press Day. And a quick reminder for those of you who watch these vlogs every day, I know you like them, please remember to click like down below. Help me keep the likes higher than the dislikes, and just remember the guys come through the next day afterwards and usually pop 50 or 60 real quick in one go on the dislikes. So if you guys keep it ahead of that, it would be greatly appreciated. But today was Max Effort Bench Press Day, and I think I got one that I got again recently. I don't even remember when I did the random. I just came up with 50 pounds of bands, and I'm like, I don't care, I'm just going to do it. And we came in and did it. Now, I'm making some adjustments with the supplemental work. I feel like there's other weak points I need to address. I want to be as efficient as possible and effective as possible with stacking on muscle everywhere that I need to. And realistically, I've got to just keep bringing my whole upper body up. You guys know I made great gains this year, fantastic gains on the squat and the deadlift, to the point to where, you know, I actually just straight up just banned someone this morning. He was like, no disrespect, but I've been watching Jason for 2 years and he's gained almost no strength. Yeah, whatever, dude. My squat and deadlift have gone up leaps and bounds this year. So, you're wrong. But if we were to talk about bench press, that would be a fair criticism. And what do we know on the bench? Size equals strength. Got to keep building everything up. Now, this ended up being, I think, their 305. A little slow at the lockout, but not bad. I actually felt it was pretty fast, all things considered. That's with the 50 pounds of bands. And I actually had someone come through who doesn't know bands the other day. It's kind of a viewer who said, I thought you used to bench more than 305 on one of these. And it's like, well, yeah, that's more than a 305 now. And that's okay. A lot of people don't understand band work. And that's fine. That's fine. They don't get it. When we go back over to some raw lifts and stuff again, as the lift goes up, they'll understand that bench is higher than that. But I decided to work with incline and dips more. I've kind of been narrowing down what exactly do I want to do for my various presses. I really like what the incline brings to the table. I feel like for me, it's a good substitute for the overhead press. I feel like I could benefit from the extra chest work, and it just gets more upper body involvement. And the only extra muscles the press might hit a little better is going to be some of the shoulder girdle further back, maybe the side delta traps more. But I'm like, I could do that with laterals and stuff. This press, especially a nice close grip incline like this, really hits the whole upper half of the chest and the delts a little bit harder. The front delts a little bit harder than the press will. To me, handle more weight, and it's something that's a weak point for me. All right, I need to get good at it. So I decided I'm going to make it one of my main supplemental lifts, and I've noticed I can still perform pretty well on the dips as long as I have a break between this. So I'm like, I'll make this one of my primary assistance movements, mainly because I know I need a little more shoulder. Right now for me, I know that shoulders are probably a slightly bigger weak link for me in my bench and my pecs, but I do need to bring my pecs up. Okay, I need to bring my whole pec up. I'm not going to disagree with that. I've had some people say, well, you know, your rib cage is really big. That's one reason your chest looks big. And they're right. I could stand to build more meat on my chest, top to bottom, particularly to bring my bench up. And I will accept that as valid criticism. It's true. And the dips will do that. But I know that right now, really kind of getting some meat on my upper chest, more front delt, all that's a higher priority. So I'm going to do this first in the rotation. Now, we're going to put heavy effort into both. I need to get my 10 rep maxes up on these, right? Not necessarily getting my 1 rep maxes, get my 10 rep maxes up. What's going to really put meat on me, and then that will carry over to my benching and everything else. And I did a slight bump today. You know, I've been doing 195 for these. I did the microplate, and it felt light for the first set. So I went ahead and went up to 200, and it was challenging. Now, people will say, well, for a guy your size, that's really weak for sets of 10 on this lift. Yeah, you know what it is. I'll accept that criticism. So how do you fix something that you're weak at? You have to train it, which I'm doing consistently. I'm training it. I'm trying to take stuff to limit sets. Right, we're doing limit sets on it, and I'm doing a nice pause on the last rep so that we have to grind through and push really hard for the final rep, making them pretty much limit sets. And I'm doing them every upper body workout. I'm doing this exercise every 48 hours, so every time I can recover from it to hit it again, I'm hitting it again. I am trying to work on progression. I'm trying to increase my 10 rep maxes. I'm micro loading up. And that is how you get through a weakness. If something is weak, the only way to get it stronger is to train it. So, people say, hey, well, you're weak on that. You need to work on it. Yep, duly noted. And that's exactly what I'm doing. You see me in the act of trying to fix that. I am in the process. And I will. So, then we did Pendley Rows. This is my normal 5x10. Normal 5x10. And again, notice you've got to use the lats to get the weight started. The worst mistake guys make on rows, especially if they're going to cheat them up. And we could argue about full resets versus a light tap. We can argue about that at the bottom on these. All right, we can get that light tap sometimes, or we can go ahead and do a full reset. When I start getting fatigued, I do the full reset. Either way, you want your scapula to spread apart. You want your lats stretched, and you want to use the lats to pop the weight up. Right? It's what we have to do. It's what we need to do. It's how you build a back with these. And we're going to cover that every time because I do these every single day. You guys are going to hear me talk about them. I've actually got a video up discussing the Pendley Row that'll come up later in the rotation. So it's in there, and I don't want to sound like a broken record with it. So we won't go through all of that again. But mainly I'm trying to stick with a weight that I know while going super strict I have to start pausing the last few reps on the final set. I want it to be challenging. And that's what's going to handle all my rear delt. So that's one of the things that I'm not worried about a lot of rear delt work right now. It's not really a big deal. These rows are doing a lot. I'm doing 35 sets of these a week. My side delt needs more work though. All right, side delt needs more work. So we started addressing that more today. All right. The lateral raises later in. And I found they were really tough. They also just destroyed my delts. Like my delts couldn't handle much of them. Like I was weaker on them than I thought I'd be coming back. I'm doing a lot of work first and they're part of a superset, but I was weak on them. But, how do you get stronger? Train something. Train it. And we went for dips, and we'll get to the dips in a minute, so we'll discuss that. I went ahead and weighted dips. Felt like based upon my other band tension stuff, and especially this late in the workout, I felt like a 45-pound plate would be right around limit sets for maybe sets of 10. The first set, it wasn't hard. I'm like, okay, I left reps in reserve. Not going to lie. All right, left reps in reserve. And you guys will note with the belt on, people want to freak out about my loose skin. People always want to talk about sucking the belly. And by the way, I have filters in to deal with that because it's getting annoying. You guys have seen the inside of my guts on a DEXA scan. All right, a gut means you have fat around your organs. I don't have any. I've got a fat under my skin. I've got fat in that loose skin. Okay. Till I get leaner later, that loose skin isn't going to tighten up more. It's actually tightened up considerably. So people who think it's gross now, you didn't look at it before. It's actually tightened up quite a bit. It's still there. It's still there. And I think if I cut again later, and I got to build my bench and stuff up first. I need to keep getting stronger, build muscle, then trim a little fat off. All right, that's how you guys need to do things. Build a little muscle, trim some fat off. Try to keep the muscle you have. And that way you can get to a body fat you can maintain and without losing your progress along the way. But yeah, probably next time I do a cut and drop, 9 or 10 pounds of fluff off, right? 9 or 10 pounds of body fat. That will probably eliminate, I bet you, another 70, 80% of that loose skin there. Okay, that's fine. But why the dips? Dips, chest activation on the entire lower half of the chest. It tends to exceed the bench press in a lot of the data. Triceps, superior. So even if I go by the EMG data and we say, well, that's arguable as to whether that's true or not, we could argue about it. Just good on paper, you can handle heavier loads. I am stronger when I calculate body weight plus weights versus bench press. Okay, doesn't irritate my shoulder the way wide grip bench does. Got a long range of motion, get a stretch reflex on the pecs. I can tell you doing these sets that I felt my chest and my entire tricep light up. Well, if I know my pecs and triceps need to grow to bring my bench up, and this exercise lights them up, and I can do a lot of workload on it. I can do a lot of workload on it without feeling tendinitis. And it makes 2 of the 3 muscles I really need to bring up from my bench light up. Well, I think it's a pretty good choice then. I think it's a real good choice. So let's work on it a bit. And I noted that before when I was doing it with bands. I want to go back and just do it traditional with plates for a while. I'm just going to keep it old school, guys. Like this is about as old school as we can get for chest and delts and triceps, right? We're doing weighted dips, incline bench, and tricep extensions, you know, with easy curl bar. That's about as traditional as we can get. That's as basic and traditional as we can get. You know, I do so much exotic stuff for the various pressing and the conjugate stuff, right? We can stick to some big basics. A lot of volume and try to get strong on our 10 rep maxes, and then smaller exercises taken to failure. On weighted dips, incline bench, tricep extensions. You know what? I think that's a tried and true way to bring up pecs, front delts, and triceps. Anybody who disagrees with that, probably a moron. Okay? Pretty tried and true method. Most experts will agree, most bros will agree. They'll say, yeah, those things will work. Oh, you gotta get really good at 10 rep sets, do lots of them, try to get strong at them. Take your tricep extensions to failure with a very effective full range of motion tricep exercise. Yeah, that'll do it. Okay. I decided to superset these with my curls and then some laterals. Right? Did some lateral raises with chains. One of the things I noted, I didn't put my head up against the pole. I just put my back and butt against it so that it forced me to be strict. I notice I get a little bit of a headache sometimes. Now, if you do a strict curl contest, you have to put your head against it. I'm not training for a strict curl contest right now. Now, I'd need to start practicing putting my head against it if I was. I'm not strong enough on the curl to compete at a strict curl contest, so why would we care? Let's just get my biceps big. This is a nice strict movement. By putting the belt on and leaning against that, I take my low back out of it because my low back gets a ton of work and it tends to cramp on these if I'm not careful. Because I do so much workload for my low back, a ridiculous amount with all my power training. It just cramps on these. But that forces it to be strict. That way, I'm obviously using bicep. I'm doing the full range of motion all the way up, even getting the shoulder extension, which recruits one of the heads of the bicep that doesn't get fully recruited from the elbow. And then I do these laterals. This weight was too heavy. I couldn't even get 10. People notice, well, it looks a little sloppy. You know, in spite of the fact that it looks sloppy, it still made my delts fail. Like my delts gave out on this. And that's really light, guys. When I say light, that's 24 pounds of chains in each hand. I cut down to the 17s. The 17s were hard for sets of 10. They made my delts hurt. My whole side delt, which shows me how little I've been training it, how weak it is, and we know that that's the smallest set of my delt right now, right? Realize how weak it is, because even the 17s, I struggled, and the delts reached failure. They absolutely gave out. Deep burn usually by rep 7. My side delts right there in the middle were on fire. Okay, so it's hitting them. Irrespective of what people think of my form, it was hitting them. I have the thumbs up and I lean forward for a reason. This is how you avoid impingement. Crushing your glenoid. That pinky up stuff bodybuilders do with that exercise will destroy parts of your shoulder joint. And you may need surgery to fix it. Okay? Don't do that. Thumbs up. Never turn your pinky up. But I did 3 sets of them as a superset. And I pretty much had to stop with the 3rd set of the lateral raises. That's all I could handle. Like, my delts were fried, even with that 17-pound chain. And that's not that much weight. They were done. Now, granted, they get a lot of splash over because, again, incline bench works the front delt. It's gonna fatigue the whole delt. Rows hit the rear delt. I didn't have anything left there. So I took them to basically failure 3 sets. And you know what? For a muscle you haven't really been training effectively, 3 sets to failure with a direct exercise is a lot. And I'm going to do it again in 2 days. So that's enough. That's enough to stimulate growth. Like I've taken the muscle to failure. Didn't have anything left after these 2 sets. So, you know, we can argue about that's not that much work. It doesn't matter at that point. An undertrained muscle, hitting it directly with 3 sets to failure is a lot of work. They're still kind of lit up. They still got to pump. Okay, see, one of them's even twitching there when I let go. Because it's like, well, what are you doing to me? So again, when even a lightweight like that makes it feel that way, we know it needs work. And like we talk about with the other movements, the only way to do it is to do it. How do you make it stronger? You got to train it. It really is that simple. I mean, realistically, we could spend a lot of time arguing about the best exercises and rep and set schemes and everything else, right? We could argue about this stuff a lot. But I think at a certain point, when you know something is a weakness, you need to just get in and train it. I don't care if it's a 5x5, a 3x10, a 5x10, a 3x12, whether you use a chain, a dumbbell, a barbell. At a certain point, if you know something is a major weak link, you need to do something. Get in and work it hard. And I've got to be honest, people overconfuse hypertrophy. Like, if you think training for hypertrophy is complicated, you're probably just really, really lazy. Okay, because the guys who struggle with all the nuance of hypertrophy training are usually lazy. And I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings. I mean, some of your people I like, some of you might be friends of mine, you might even be clients of mine. If you struggle with hypertrophy, I get it. If you've been following a pure heavy strength program and you're not getting big, all right, I get that. But if you struggle with hypertrophy when you say, I want to actually get a muscle big, which is hypertrophy type training, you're just lazy if it doesn't get big. Hypertrophy doesn't take much in the way of programming. You don't have to be smart. Okay. Programming for maximum strength requires you to have some brains and some knowledge. Getting big, do bunch test failure. Don't overtrain. Don't do too much volume. Don't do too little volume. Don't do too much volume, and just train really hard as frequently as you can recover from it. That will get a muscle big. It's that simple, within your genetic limits. Obviously, if you're comparing yourself to a genetic freak on trend, you're not going to get the same results. Realistically, hypertrophy training is not that complicated. So let's come over to the point. How do you get that muscle bigger? You just got to train it. Just have to train it. Just find a good exercise that you know will hit the muscle and train it. Try not to pick silly stuff that'll cause tendinitis. Right? Try not to pick silly stuff that'll damage your joints. All right, that's what we do. But I was only able to do 3 sets of those. I went ahead and I did all 5 sets of my tricep extensions and my curls because I had something left. Although they felt like at a point I was just getting fatigued. They were getting with the last couple sets. I'm not going to lie. I felt like I was almost just at junk volume. I was just trying to just squeeze out a couple more sets. Because I've done a lot of work first. Particularly the triceps. That's a lot of pressing. We did a max. We did 5 sets of incline, 5 sets of weighted dips. I took the last set of weighted dips definitely to failure. I didn't have anything left. So that's just to make sure that we thoroughly work the triceps. But they were just near the end. It's just like, yeah, I just didn't feel that pop in them. On the last set, something you don't notice bodybuilders and other people say, when you don't even get a pump anymore on a final set somewhere, you're just done. And that's how it felt on the 5th set. Coming up, I just kind of went through it and it kind of reached failure, and the muscle just didn't really, I didn't feel anything in it at that point. And it's probably exhausted it. Instead of anything left. The curls, though, on the 5th set, I felt like I was really able to squeeze out a little more. So that was an interesting difference. And I think that has to do with the total workload, right? Because I did a lot of pressing before these tricep extensions. The only thing I did for my biceps was rows. And 5 sets of Pendley Rows is not a particularly massive amount of bicep work. Let's be realistic here. Nobody's getting big guns from 5 sets of Pendley Rows, strict Pendley Rows, right? Especially where you use your back. My biceps had a lot left. So even though the triceps, by like the 5th set, they're just like, man, they just felt like I was going through the motions. I couldn't feel anything, didn't get a pump, right? And they just felt slow and weak. Nothing there. The bicep curls on the 5th set, incidentally, even though it's been the last thing in a superset, I really felt like the 5th set really had a lot in there. Like I've somehow managed to dig in, even though they were kind of burning, and squeeze out a couple more reps than I thought I would. Right? Kind of pause and then squeeze out a couple more. And I really felt like those last 2 reps, I really felt a deep, deep contraction. Right? I really felt my biceps. And I don't usually feel my biceps. That's something I need to remind guys of because of that tissue damage. I might have some nerve damage in one of them. I don't really feel my biceps easily. I don't really feel them easily. Like I very rarely can get a pump in them or anything, and curls almost never give me a pump. It's only rows. But it's been a good workout, so I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.